Sanibonani. Ninjani? I am I'm very pleased, I must say, to welcome you to this gathering. I have planned to have a series of what I call ministerial dialogue on transport. The first we're starting with is the maritime sector. So this is the first dialogue on the maritime transport, to be specific, maritime transport sector. And I must thank all of you for setting aside time to be here. And of course, apologize that we are starting a bit late. In this dialogue that I've convened for the next 2 days, we will be discussing and engaging on the South African maritime transport industry and its contribution in economic growth and development of our country, including in the important aspect of job creation. This inaugural maritime transport dialogue, as I have said, is the first in a series of dialogues I'm planning, and I have been of the view that it is time that all stakeholders in the sector need to come together, have discussions and engagements, and hopefully agree on a common approach to the accelerated transformation of the sector, so that we properly understand the true nature of the sector. I will be having other government entities here that are in the sector that will be speaking, as well as the various stakeholders. But as the department, we intend to be doing much more intensive and extensive research into the sector, so that we don't guess. We know exactly what kind of a sector we have and what challenges do we have. The maritime transport sector is also a key component in government's objective in growing and developing the ocean's economy. If I were to compress my speech into a few sentences about what this dialogue should achieve, I would say that what is paramount in my mind as we gather over the next 2 days is what are the obstacles to the transformation or the accelerated transformation of the maritime sector generally and the maritime transport sector in particular. And what is to be done to accelerate transformation? Also, what economic opportunities are there to grow and develop a transforming maritime transport sector? How do we ensure inclusive growth and development of the sector, including the previously disadvantaged as well as women and youth? How do we accelerate also employment equity and decent working conditions in this sector? I must say that I expect frank and robust discussions in exploring these questions over the next 2 days. But I would plead that let's minimize lamenting. When we engage, let's minimize lamenting. Let's focus on concrete actions that will have to be taken. Sometimes we are said as South Africans that we like lamenting, as if we do not have ideas, which is not true. We have lots of ideas. We want to hear those ideas and concrete plans and actions. I wish to state up front, because sometimes these things you may think that they are well known at all times. But I wish to state up front that there is no contradiction between the growth and development of the maritime transport sector on the one hand and the transformation of the sector on the other. Instead, the two things are closely intertwined. There can be no growth and development of the maritime transport sector unless it is inclusive and transforming. That's a reality. Government's starting point is that South Africa is surrounded by just under 4,000 kilometers of sea line, and we've correctly identified our oceans as a strategic resource and that which we've not fully taken advantage of. According to Operation Pakisa, which is our oceans economy strategy, our oceans have the potential to contribute up to 177 billion rands to the GDP and create just over 1 million jobs by 2033. Through Operation Pakisa, 47 detailed initiatives have been identified whose progressive implementation is expected to increase this sector's contribution to our GDP and creating thousands and thousands of jobs. To further explore this potential, government brought together teams from government, labor, business, academia, and other sectors to work together in what we call laboratories of the Oceans Economy Strategy to explore all possibilities and further unlock the potential of our country's vast coastline. In addition to these laboratories, we therefore can achieve more of these objectives if we also put in place two critical enablers: skills and capacity building, and also research, technology, and innovation, also as part of preparing ourselves for the fourth industrial revolution, which is upon us. As the Department of Transport, we are tasked with leading the marine transport and manufacturing work stream of Operation Pakisa, which is amongst the 6 work streams of Operation Pakisa that have been set up in government's Oceans Economy Strategy. Amongst others, our work stream has highlighted a concern that South Africa, for instance, currently has no registered ships. I'm told there are 2 or 3 now that are registered in South Africa and flying the South African flag. This is in spite of the fact that each year 300 million tons of cargo moves through our ports in imports and exports. In addition, 1.2 million tons of liquid fuels move along our coast, while the rapidly expanding offshore oil and gas activities require a supporting fleet of vessels. As a country, we are also ideally positioned to serve the east-west cargo traffic and the booming African offshore oil and gas industry through marine manufacturing, which includes ship and rig repair, refurbishment, and boat building. Despite this competitive advantage of our location, we currently capture only 1% of the global market of ship repair and replenishment. So there's a huge disjuncture between the tons we carry each year and our participation in ship repair and replenishment. Of the 80 oil rigs estimated to be in the range of the Western Cape, for instance, only 4 rigs are serviced per year, showing significant potential for growth. We therefore need to swiftly meet some of the initial targets drawn up by this work stream of Operation Pakisa, which includes a commitment to increase our local manufacturing capacity through a 10% increase in the usage of local components for boat and shipbuilding. Now, this is important in this area of promoting local manufacturing. It's a very crucial component, actually, of the transformation of the maritime sector broadly and the maritime transport sector. I just need to point out that something sometimes that concerns us is that empowerment sometimes, acting teaching, comes in the form of imports or importers or those from outside who are selling our goods to South Africa. Sometimes getting black and women BE partners in order to secure products that are produced outside, and it's called black economic or women empowerment. If it is something that we could be making in South Africa, it actually isn't genuinely black economic empowerment, because it's disempowering our capacity to create jobs for thousands of South Africans. I know that there is a tension in that area, and it's something that we need to discuss and confront, because government strategy is localization. That where we are able to produce internally, let's do that. So as we look at the maritime transport sector, one of the things we must place at the center is localization. Also, this work stream that I'm talking about is also committed to an increase in ship repair capacity in Richards Bay, thus creating hundreds of jobs. I'm pleased also that the ship repair sector is also going to say something to us today. We also want to create a dedicated education, training and skills development focus for the sector, working with the Department of Higher Education and Training in particular. Now, this is another important matter that I feel passionate about. It's okay to be black shareholders and to be women shareholders. But what's the point in being shareholders in a sector where you know nothing about how to run it? What is that? We have gone through a phase of BE that have emphasized ownership. Correctly, we are not saying that's wrong. But ownership to the exclusion of skills and ability to run the sectors we are in is not sustainable, actually. Our country will always be up for sale if we continue to do that. So for me, part of the transformation of maritime transport is skills development and capacity building. It's very crucial. Also, we are committed to increase the amount of minerals exported on South African ships, as well as to attracting investment into the development of coastal shipping. Now, this is greenfield in South Africa, coastal shipping. It's an area that we have identified as a huge potential growth area. As government with policy, a correct one, we must move as many passengers and as much freight as possible away from the road to rail. But I want to add, away from the road to ships and boats as well. We estimate that we can do quite a lot of movement of goods along our ports, along our sea line. It's a huge area. We need good entrepreneurs to move into that space and mobilize investment. And in the process, by the way, we also promote marine tourism. You know, there is a stereotype about black South Africans, which is not far from the truth either. You know, that they demand transformation in rugby, in cricket, in tennis, everywhere, except one area where they don't care about transformation, which is swimming. Don't ever transform, so part of transformation is to overcome the fear of water by black South Africa. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I decided that as part of my commitment as Minister of Transport, as I have said, to promote a deeper dialogue. Let's engage. Today, as we reflect on the maritime sector, we can attest to meaningful progress already achieved. However, more still needs to be done. Through this dialogue, we intend to reach out to those parts of our society in particular that have become disaffected, disinterested, or marginalized from meaningful participation in the sector. Not so long ago, the President convened a very successful presidential job summit that agreed on far-reaching measures that, when fully implemented, may nearly double the number of jobs being created in our economy each year. And this sector has a huge contribution to make in job creation. For me, by the way, personally, this is like a circle. The first time growing up in Pietermaritzburg, not far from here, that I heard a bit about Maritime, DTG group. There was a gentleman in Kisa who used to be a seafarer, who used to disappear for 6 months. But when he came back, it was very nice. We would get some presents from other parts of the world. I learned about the Commodores and Lionel Richie for the first time from him in the 1970s, because we came with a plate. Not now, this iTunes music and stream. He played the LP, Yama Commodores. That was from a seafarer. So for me, it's like a cycle being committed. Here I am now, talking about the transformation of the maritime. Now, what is it that we've done as government? Let me just reflect a bit more on that. Which would want you, by the way, here, to frankly evaluate. Tell us where you think it's good, tell us where you think it's not good. Even tell us nicely and diplomatically that this we think it's nonsense. Don't use that word. But tell us diplomatically such that we clearly understand where you feel that we are not doing okay. But we don't only like criticism as government. We welcome, we don't mind it, but we want criticism in order then to say, tell us what is to be done better and differently. Because we are a listening government. We have introduced, and I think we've circulated that, what we call the Comprehensive Maritime Transport Policy, CMTP, which we see as a platform for the growth, development, and transformation of the sector. And we've also been working within this context to identify legislative impediments to the realization of transformation in this sector. The CMTP, that is your Comprehensive Maritime Transport Policy vision, wants to develop a maritime transport industry that is an effective and growing industry, which is safe, secure, reliable, economical, and well-regulated. And our policy goes further to say it should be environmentally sustainable within the global logistics chain and contribute to South Africa's socio-economic development and growth. The CMTP envisages the establishment of the Maritime, this is important, the Maritime Transport Sector Development Council as a platform and vehicle to develop concrete strategies and cooperation to develop and transform the sector. This council is also expected to develop appropriate plans to grow the sector within the context of the oceans economy. In other words, what we are saying is that we need institutional mechanisms to be able to take forward growth, development, and transformation of the sector. Our policy, CMTP, is suggesting a council. You will have, we hope that you will reflect on that. Whether you accept that idea or not, if you accept it, what form and shape should this council take? Also, we are committed to the development of a multi-year maritime transport sector plan, as well as the review and monitoring of the overall performance of the sector. And by the way, this overall review of the sector on an annual basis is something that we wish to be incorporated into this plan. In other words, we may not come out of here with specified targets in each sector, but we must set the scene and the context and the foundation for developing mechanisms so that we move towards that, coming out of here. I would also like to move with speed to establish the necessary framework for the institutionalization of these bodies that we are proposing. Because I believe they will help to achieve our developmental objectives and also revitalize shipping, amongst others. Parallel to the adoption of favorable trade terms, by the way, in which our sector is important, it has become urgent that mining and energy sector hold consultations towards the development and adoption of an incentivized scorecard in the procurement of shipping transportation, especially for the movement of coal, iron ore, manganese, chrome, and other materials in the context of agreed percentages for such transformation as reserved for South African ships. That's why partly we have also invited someone from the mining sector, because there is mining that takes place in the sea, in our seas, by the way. So it's very important that we also reflect on that side. And even here what the mining charter is saying, you know, when the Minister of Minerals is full of jokes, sometimes you don't know, he's very serious. Other times he's joking, he says, yeah, I was a unionist, and I know that these unions are very good, but they can cause problems sometimes. Now that we have discovered oil in the sea, I want to see how they are going to match their importance. Now, the national shipping carriers, we regard that as a strategic pillar in the revival of the maritime transport industry in our country. When Cabinet approved the comprehensive maritime transport policy, it approved the policy with an embedded target of ensuring that measures will have to be developed that will ensure that within the next 5 years, or within 5 years of the adoption of this, which was in 2017, a significant targeted percentage of exports and imports are moved by national shipping carriers. So that's our 2022, at least we must have something. That is why, by the way, we are with this dialogue. We want to lay a basis for using 2019 to really begin to implement this policy framework. With your inputs, of course. And we are already in the second year since 2017, after the adoption of the CMTP. and it's urgent that we do something about it. The CMTP's provision of the framework, for instance, providing for offshore bunkering services by way of example, will create a balanced and viable industry as opposed to the mushrooming of activities sometimes that are driven largely by foreign or narrow interests, whose desire is simply money outside of a context, as I have said earlier, of developing our country, including the problem of fronting, by the way. Hey, I didn't fronting. Ubone nje insizwa yakwabo songile ufaka kudala. Ntokazi yinhle ifake ngisho idumo elihle. Kodwa uyifront. Yazi into mina ngikhulele kwadambuza abazikwadambuza. Into eyifront nje into engiyiphinda. Why are you a front when the government has developed such policies for meaningful participation, for entrepreneurs, for innovators to be able to drive and benefit from this sector in particular? I hope coming out of here, we will all be different people and develop and agree on strategies that will not necessitate fronting. The regulation of maritime zones remain my responsibility, and I will be announcing measures that will ensure that these zones, particularly where we have exclusive jurisdiction, are increasingly served by licensed South African entities. I need to commend the ports regulator, Mahesh, for its role in creating a conducive and investor-friendly environment in ports, and also helping to reduce the cost of doing business in ports. The use of the tariff determination methodology as a tool for not only promoting local manufacturing, but also facilitating new entrants of young entrepreneurs and port innovation must be encouraged and be rewarded where it is due. I understand you will share some of these approaches in your brief inputs later today. Program Director, ladies and gentlemen, the present policy and legislation of government requires also that we corporatize the National Ports Authority. You know, I read this National Ports Act one day after being appointed Minister of Transport. I was flying between Johannesburg and Cape Town, going to Parliament. So, and I learned something I wasn't aware of. That I have a lot to do with ports, although Transnet actually operates the ports. But we must stand at SAMSA for the ports. How do we use that power to drive transformation? I will be tasking the National Ports Consultative Committee to advise me on the steps that need to be undertaken to implement this crucial piece of legislation, including the corporatization of the Transnet Ports Authority. I hear there's a debate here. You need to engage it, by the way. You should not run away from the debate, because there are some people who are not wild about this idea. Let's open up the issues and debate them. And the Transnet Ports Authority, I hope, are they here? Oh, yeah. Why tell them so good? Why? Now, I want to also highlight another matter that is very close to my heart. I'm really committed, and as this government, it's not just me, into investing in having transport innovation hubs. We're not going to transform the transport sector generally, or any mode of transport, without investment into science, technology, and innovation as a big driver. That's why acting DG, I really get so angry. In South Africa, we have a train crashing into another train. Really? Again. I understand aeroplanes, they are able to trace in the area in which they are flying if there is another aircraft. Trains on the ground, smashing each other in this day and age. That says something about us. That should not be happening. Given that we already have this technology when it comes to aircraft, why are we not having this when it comes to trains, for instance? That's just by way of illustrating the necessity. We are not going to move forward unless we invest. Now, this is what I would really like to say, that we all have to come together to mobilize significant investments into science, technology, and innovation. You know, all the time now, I bump across young people. I've got this idea or that idea which I think can provide a solution to your problem. But I don't know how to test that. Sitting Jesus, if someone says, I've got an app, you know, which can solve your problems in the shipping industry, I don't know what to say. But if we've got transport innovation hubs, we'll have areas where people can go and test their ideas, and then they get evaluated so that then they are able to finance these ideas. That's my dream. If it comes to as South Africans, we have lots of ideas, I'm telling you. That I know for a fact. Sometimes including ideas for bad things, but nevertheless. We have lots of ideas for good things as well, that we actually need to be mobilizing. So I'm very committed to this idea. And I want my panel of experts, together with my advisors, Professor Swart, to help me with this idea. I'm going to Munich. I'm told that they have a lab, again, Munich Airport, a lab of some sort in aviation. I'm interested, I'm keen. I also hopefully want to see some labs. We have got our own, but innovation hubs in Maritime. And we need to invest money into it. It's not a waste to invest money into them. A partnership, dynamic partnership, between the public sector, the private sector, our research institutions, and our universities. By the way, I always say this, I hope also my thing is over shall not hear, because when I say it. You know, when I moved from higher education to transport, at least I was moved during the day, I was taken away from it wasn't late at night. People will say, hey, the man will see. We have been taken away from the highly educated and sophisticated to transport. To deal with the highly uneducated. We'll see how we're going to make this transition. Actually, little did I know myself how sophisticated sectors of transport are. So I feel at home. I really feel at home. That's why I'm also passionate about this issue of rail. Now, just a few points then before I end, because I don't want to talk forever. It's not my day. It's your 2 days. We're part of a bigger African continent. In fact, if you look at the continent as a whole, the potential for our maritime and maritime transport sector is huge. Even when we're thinking of coastal shipping, we must also be thinking of SADC, thinking of Namibia, Angola, thinking of Mozambique, Tanzania, for instance. opportunities. And by the way, make use of some of us as ministers who sit with our colleagues in SADC as another platform through which we actually are able to develop some kind of SADC strategy or African-wide strategy. We are not only dealing with the oceans, by the way, we are also dealing with our inland waterways, which is another huge and potential area for growth and development in our country. The African Union is the 2050 Africa Integrated Maritime Strategy, called AIMS. Familiarize yourself with that, because it's another opportunity. We're also lucky. Next year, our President Cyril Ramaphosa will be chairing the AU. How do we use that opportunity to also engage and drive our own agenda as part of the African agenda? Also, the African Maritime Endeavour 2020 will be convened here in South Africa next year, which will have Pan-African maritime stakeholders, including the Women in Maritime Africa, a body recognized by the AU, another key platform. I understand that the Vice President of Women in Maritime Africa, Mrs. Ipelen Silele, is present here with us today. Am I right? Yes. Where are you? In my Dambuza language, I would have said stood up. Thank you very much. Very good to see you. 2020 Maritime Endeavour will also give us an update on the progress of AIMS 2050. It will also begin, hopefully, to raise awareness on integrated maritime strategy for our continent. Our President has also signed the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, which means that we've joined more than 50 African states who have already signed this commitment. And maritime transport has got a huge contribution to it. The African Development Bank, which, by the way, will be holding its meeting here in South Africa once in November this year, always complains to say everybody else borrows from the African Development Bank, but not South Africa. Why? Because there's a source for monies for investment to be able to grow, in this instance, for instance, the maritime transport sector. Now, we are also going to be hosting the International Maritime Organization 2020 World Maritime Day parallel event, which is an opportunity for us also to demonstrate what we are capable of. Other international engagements that are important is that as Minister, I have already participated in a number of trade missions that include cooperation in maritime with Russia and China and recently Cuba. My department has also advised me that the Maritime International Relations and Technical Cooperation Committee, as envisaged in our maritime transport policy, is being established next month. Further consultations and discussions are also taking place, and now the BRICS countries have established a maritime forum. I hope I'm not boring you with all this, because it's very important information to understand the context in which you are. And further consultations on the BRICS Maritime Forum will be taking place on the sidelines of the BRICS Summit taking place in Brazil in August 2019. Let's also think about how we effectively engage and benefit from these platforms. I'm grateful to all of you for having come here today and hoping that you will stay till tomorrow, most of you. I also, as I have said once, to especially welcome members of the panel of experts who have committed to work with me and with us to contribute towards taking the transport sector generally forward, including the maritime sector. And I also add my voice in welcoming the many representatives drawn from different sectors of industry. We would like to apologize that for our next session, we couldn't accommodate everyone, okay? Not because there are people we like, not because there are people we dislike. We selected what we thought perhaps would be representative of state entities in this sector as well as representatives of business, unions, and other sectors. But that's why we are going to be having some time, hopefully, for some plenary discussions as well as commissions, so that everybody would not go away and say, I haven't had a chance to say what I say. I wish you every success in this important dialogue, and wish you a successful outcome. Yabo.